Thanks, everybody. Hi, thank you. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest, Bellamy Young, has dazzled audiences in shows like Dirty Sexy Money, CSI Miami, Scrubs, and of course, Scandal. And now you can see her in the new Fox thriller, Prodigal Son, which is the story of a serial killer. Ooh, Bellamy Young, everybody. Let's hear it. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me
It's so
here.
nice to have you.
It's nice to be had.
Oh, so sweet. I love your name.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It loves you back.
Thank you. Bellamy Young. I just think it makes me, I don't know, I just like that name a lot. I have nothing else to add to that.
Well, it's an absolute fabrication, so I appreciate it.
Is it really?
Yes, yes. My name is Amy Young. There was a 4-year-old in SAG when I joined SAG 150 years ago, and I had to come up with something else that someone could still call me Amy. And, you know, Amanda was taken.
Oh,
so
Bell,
yeah.
Amy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a pretty sort of pretty thing to bring together.
Well.
How did you come up with it?
My dad's best friend, my sweet first father, my mother's buried 4 husbands, so that's a whole other 30-minute episode. But my first dad died when I was 15, but his best friend, it was like a mushing of our names, so it was a little homage.
Oh.
So, it, you know, I carry it around like a little blankie.
When did you start acting?
The minute I started breathing, I hardly know. I started, tap and singing and all of that when I was like 3.
You were always a performer?
Yeah. So it was always musicals and dancing and that kind of thing.
Did you perform did you act professionally as a child, or was it something that you started
No, it was like
auditioning
summer
when you were
stock. And,
Yeah.
in North Carolina, I was like Gretel
right.
in The Sound of Music when I was 5 and, very culturally inappropriate Nagana in South Pacific when I was 6, like little things like that. But I loved it so much.
And when you graduated high school or college, did you go out to LA and start auditioning?
I went to Yale, went for physics, wound up with an English and a theater major, double major, because physics didn't love me as much as I loved it. And then I did a national tour of Meet Me in St. Louis, and I came to New York, and I did Broadway, and I did soap, and did everything that, I could do in New York, and lost my illegal sublet. Hello, and moved to LA, and I've been there, 15 plus years.
What was it like doing soaps at that time? It was a completely different thing, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I loved it though. I mean, especially theater.
You really get to act.
Well, they throw it at you on the day, right? But from the theater, you're doing everything. You're like beating your own face, and you're getting to your theater by yourself and like whatever. But soaps, they pick you up in a car and they drive you out to Coney Island.
Felt famous. You felt glamorous.
I felt so fabulous. But yes, they were, it was another world. And at that time, they were starting to do a little medical sort of aspect, because ER had just started up. This was a dog's age ago. And I was Dr. Courtney Evans. And they were still finding their way with it. So they'd write new things on the day, and we'd just learn it all up. And it was so much fun.
How many times did you have to deliver bad news as Dr. Courtney Evans?
She was a pretty good doctor, Ricky.
Sorry. Even good doctors have to deliver bad news.
The funniest thing,
gods.
they're not gods. The funniest thing about Dr. Courtney Evans is that I got a job doing a show with Randy Newman and David Mamet, where they did a treatment of Faust. And so I had to go do that. And so I had that ignominious moment when they say, today the part of Dr. Courtney Evans will be played by Stina Nielsen. And I was replaced, just like there was another human doing Dr. Courtney Evans from then on.
That's amazing. They just put a completely new person in?
Whole new human. She's blonde. She's like this tall. It's just a whole new human.
That's a big deal when like a network show does that, or like a primetime show. It's big news.
Like all the Darrens on Bewitched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like a daytime soap is just kind of like, oh, throw them in.
They just did it. They just did it. I love it. It makes me howl.
Yeah. So Prodigal Son, I love this show. I've seen the first episode, and it seems as though things are not as they seem for your character and her relationship. There are secrets that she is maybe keeping.
Yes, even from herself, I think. I mean, have you guys gotten to see the pilot episode? Okay, well, Michael Sheen plays a serial killer, and in 1998, he was carted off to Hannibal Lecter land. He was the surgeon. He had killed at least 23 people. And we meet our family in the flashback when our kids are 7 and 9. And and sort of come to present day, playing out what it would be like if Hannibal Lecter were your dad. And our son Malcolm has grown up to be a profiler, trying to atone for the sins of his father. And Jessica, the mother, whom I play, she was thrust very quickly. They live on the Upper East Side. They were very well-to-do. And instead of getting a chance to sort of process the horror, the shame, change her name, change her zip code, she had kids. And so first and foremost was to keep them safe and to maintain some sort of stability for them in their life. So I think she just choked it all down and tried to move on with their life. She kept the name, she kept the house, she just kept going.
Which kind of suggests that she lived in, if she kept the name and kept the house, she kept the limelight a little bit.
You can't, it's just that you can't change your face, right? And especially in Manhattan, everybody knows everybody. It's a small town, Manhattan. And so, you know, the look, the glances,
very small.
Tiny. And the like winks and the whispers, and you're not gonna get away from it. So you have to just start where you stand, you know, and really, really face it. And yes, you know, there's been some boozing and some philanthropy, and she, you know, there's a variety of ways that she's
I like that boozing and philanthropy go hand in hand.
You have your coping mechanisms. But most of all, she's been trying to be a good mom.
She philanthropies,
yes,
you know.
Balance, Ricky, balance.
What drew you to this role? What made you want to play this part? I mean, you're coming off of Scandal, right? Which you won awards for, you're nominated for awards for. It was arguably one of the most successful shows on television throughout its run. You kind of have the pick of the litter, I'm assuming, or you probably could have just not worked for a little while and hung out. What made you, I guess maybe that's a wrong assumption.
No, I love working. So I loved my Scandal family, still do. I love them so much. And no, it was always a dream to get to be a part of something wonderful again. I did a pilot last year. You know, we finished Scandal at like 4 a.m. I slept on the floor for like 45 minutes because my house was empty, and then went to Dallas and did a pilot and was on hold for that until until Halloween of last year. And so that afforded me time. My sweetheart is running around somewhere. There he goes. He's free range. He's a percussionist, and I sort of got to see all of Europe, tagging along as a groupie with him, which was cool. Did Scott Foley's show, Whiskey Cavalier, in Prague. But when Channing left ABC, that sort of went with her, and I just wanted to find something wonderful. And when this script came, man, I mean, it was so on the page. It's Sam Sclaver and Chris Fadak are our creators, and they just created a world, you know, that's as hilarious as it is creepy, that teaches you things and makes you learn things about yourself at the same time. It's wonderful. And please, when I got to Jessica, I thought I might, you know, have been as lucky as I'll ever get as an actor to get to be Melly Grant, because that was the ride of a lifetime. But Jessica's delicious. And she was like that right for that first scene where she's making him tea. Like reading that the first time, they'd already said Michael Sheen and they'd already said New York. And I was like, how fast can I? Please, let's start tonight.
Do you get some scenes with Michael Sheen?
I might.
What was it like working with him?
He is incredible. I mean, talk about acting goals. He's just so seamless. It's so easy. And he's been writing a screenplay about the Green River killer. So he's been really steeped in serial killer sociopathy for the last 2.5, 3 years. So it's quick for him. He's not like method and he's got to take it home. And I just really seemed like I harshed on people who are method. Respect to all people who are method. But he can like put it on like a baseball hat and finish the scene and take it off. And while you're in the scene with him, it's an absolute free fall because he's just present and anything could happen. And that is the best feeling in the world when somebody's really there with you. It's so sexy and so like it raises your game, and he's a delight.
Are you the type of person who can put the hat on and take it off as well that easily, or do you need to pregame a little bit and get yourself worked up?
You know, I'm definitely a person who wants everybody to be comfortable in the room. So if I haven't had time with a character and I haven't done my personal work and I'm having to work on set, I just try to not make it other people's responsibility. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I have to stay in it, I'll stay in it separately somewhere, or I'll listen to music and, you know, that kind of thing.
Everybody shut up, I'm trying to think.
Don't look at me in the eyes. No, yeah.
I'm going to be speaking to you with my accent today. Which I actually respect. It's something that people do because
you got it.
they don't want to lose the,
Yeah, I totally get it. P.S. How great. I know. Michael Sheen and Tom Payne are both using American accents
Yeah.
flawlessly. Tom's accent, like, it's crazy. So good. So good. Michael, obviously, he's good at everything.
What is it like to play Tom's mother?
Ow, I threw my back out. I'm just kidding. It's a joy. I mean, he's so gifted. He's such a gifted actor, and he's such a great _1. I know you met him. Like, he's such a good human.
Yeah, he was just here a couple days ago. Yeah,
exactly.
very nice guy.
So he sets the tone for everything, and it's great. I mean, I love Halston as well. I'm very proud of my babies.
Have you noticed being around? I mean, with Scandal, you had a #1 on the call sheet there for 7 seasons. You have Tom as the #1 here, and you've done other shows as well. You've been on Scrubs, number of shows. Have you noticed how hard it is to be the #1 on the call sheet every day? Is that a difficult thing?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. I mean, it really sets the tone, just not on set, in the office, in the trailers, everywhere. And, no names mentioned. We've all heard terrible stories of terrible #1s, and the set is fractious, and the whole thing's a mess. I was very gifted to go through wonderful #1 school with Kerry Washington.
Yeah.
And I'll just learn how to be a better person, much less, a better person on set. And the thing that I did last year, I got to be #1, so I got to practice at it. And it takes a lot of planning because you want to be thoughtful of everybody's special occasions, and you want to be inclusive of everybody's, they had a baby and they got a new dog, and like whatever you want to.
You need a good assistant.
You got to mother it. I guess so. I didn't have an assistant.
That's Mike. He just had a baby, right? Like that kind of thing.
Hello, Mike. How's your baby?
Yeah. This is Tim. It's his birthday tomorrow.
Tim, happy birthday. You're good. You're available?
And this is our director right here. His name is Jack.
Just a director.
Oh, right. Just a director. Have you ever, no names mentioned, no shows mentioned, I just like I like how, stories about how actors deal with being on sets where it's fractured or the #1. Because oftentimes people get senioritis. It's not necessarily their fault. They're going through the same thing over and over again. It's sometimes hard to remain as buoyant as they once were. Have you ever had that experience and had to figure out how to get by?
A ton, because that is sadly, especially with actors, but with human nature entirely, sort of like, people tend towards complaining, they tend.
Of course.
They forget that their right now is not there forever, and that's the whole trip. Just remember, it's only your now, and tomorrow it all might be gone, and then you can really enjoy today.
I saw a Steven Soderbergh quote about complaining a few months ago, and he was like, life is really amazing, but I'm complaining all the time because I'm human. Yeah. And I was like, that's about right.
Yeah,
It's just what humans do.
Yeah, so you just have to hope you're in a bunch of people that remind you to be grateful. Right. We all are gonna bitch now and again, or now and now, and now and forever. But you
know how to complain with a sense of gratitude behind it, because you're not going to be able to stop the complaining. No. But you have to know how to do it with at least a veil of some kind of but this is great. And
or the situation, it's great, and maybe sometimes the complaints are valid and you can make change, but just to always be grateful and always lead with gratitude first, and then have a conversation. But you just hope that you're like Scandal, that family of people. We were just all really good to lift each other up all the time. So yeah, support each other, keep people grateful.
Yeah. We have a question coming in from Twitter. What does that question say? It says, have you researched serial killers at all for this role?
I know you, Sam. What's going on? I don't know where to talk to you.
You can talk to me.
I'm a big chicken. So I sort of tuned more into the shame of it all. Since I didn't have to do any of the cutting and the killing, shame is probably for most actors an easy one to get to. But just that, you know what I'm saying?
Why is that?
Well, nobody got here by not being broken. I mean, it wasn't like my life was so good. That's why I'm an actor. Not that I'm complaining, but you know what I'm saying? You have to have a bit of a life experience. So yeah, the shame, I think, is what I tuned to first. She's also so perfect on the page that this is such a lazy person's answer. I didn't have to do that much. She's so well written. I could hear her when I read the first time. I could hear her voice. I could hear her rhythms. Like I could just see her. She just existed to me in a very visceral way. So I lean into that. And then any sort of research I need to do outside of that, I can do on my own time. And this job brings with it, like Scandal, there was a lot of, especially initially, a lot of first lady reading to do, because, the woman behind the man is not often the story that you hear. So that was a lot of interesting stuff. But luckily, Sam, I don't have to delve too deep in the mind of the serial killer.
At the risk of annoying you, I want to go back to the shame thing that you talked about. Because I'm curious, well, I think all actors experience a form of shame if they are conscious at all of what they're doing. And I'm wondering if your shame, or the shame that you were referring to, is the shame that generally swirls around the occupation itself, and rejection and being in front of a camera and being pampered and worrying about that stuff, or if it's a different kind of shame that we don't necessarily have to get into, but that you pull from that's much more personal.
I just think that there are rifts that happen in our lives that drive us to connect, or drive us to tell stories, drive us to create. And lots of that happened in my childhood, lots of death and all of that kind of good stuff. Again, we can go to that another day. But I'm so grateful for it, because now I get to lead a life that I get to lead 1 million lives in one lifetime,
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, because we all go through pain. We all, the stories we tell are most often stories of struggle and hopefully redemption, but sometimes struggle and failure. And to know that is a gift.
Is performing as other characters and telling stories a form of catharsis for you in some ways?
Definitely a form of healing. I don't know that I always get to catharsis, because that's such a freeing thing, but I feel it more of a journey in terms, and it's always incredible the jobs that you get. Or you can't even know it, but they're right on time for what you need to heal in this regard or that regard. And I'm not sure what Jessica's here to teach me yet, but I know Melly taught me about just taking your space in the world. I mean, she was my way or the highway. I'll never get that far. But to be her 17 hours a day, changed me molecularly. I'm a different person for having gotten to be her. And so that's what I feel like. It's just little calibrations that each job gives you as a gift.
Yeah. Couple questions from the audience. Who has a question?
Oh,
Someone's walking up behind me.
Hello.
hi.
I was just wondering, out of all the roles that you've done, which one was the most difficult to prepare for?
Ooh, what's your name?
Gaia.
Hi, Gaia. Thanks for asking. I think one of the ones that was most difficult to prepare for, Melly wound up being the most challenging, but I got it the night before and only had 2 lines, so there wasn't a lot to prepare. But the one, I did a movie with Lou Diamond Phillips called The Night Stalker, about Richard Ramirez. And it was the most difficult to prepare for, because that is a dark, hard place to go. I mean, he was Richard, and he was incredible. He was incredible. He did unbelievable work in that movie, and I was a fabricated person on the outside of it, but trying to get him to admit to one murder that I knew a guy on death row was about to be executed for, and it was, it was hard. It was just hard. I mean, we had Megan Griffiths, who was actually just with us on episode 6 to direct A Prodigal Son, and she took such great care of us, kept us super safe on set, but it was just a hard place to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more.
Asking an online question from our website, buildseries.com.
Right on.
I absolutely love to read your tweets while watching. What is your favorite part of live tweeting during the episode?
Oh, man. I can't watch it and tweet. So who asked? I should say hello to whoever asked.
Oh, they took out the name. I'm sorry. But they'll know.
All right. They'll know. Hello, whoever. I can't watch and tweet because I'm a 20th century bunny. But so my favorite part is it feels like theater. You hear if you got the laugh, or you hear if someone got moved by that scene, or you just have an audience experience that you don't get when you're just doing a TV show and you sit at home and you think, my show's on the air. It's just much more of a communal experience, and I love it. Carrie and her Kerry Washington, and her longtime social media person and friend, Allison Peters, they like invented it, right? They thought of it for Scandal, and we would never have gotten a second season. They were smart enough to have Shonda tell us to do it. But they realized that no one has appointment TV anymore. There's no reason to sit down when you know you're going to DVR it and binge it anyway. And so they were trying to think of a reason for ratings' sake, to have people watch it on time. And it just began, you know, in a mercenary way and wound up being absolutely filling our hearts and with an experience that was inextricable from making the show. You know, it wouldn't have been half of what it was if we hadn't had our gladiators with us every week. And I'm so waiting for everybody who likes Prodigal Son to help us name our Prodigal Son family. So I solicit that. Prods. Dig it. All right. Hashtag prods. But so, yeah, I just love it. It feels like family.
Prodigal Son is on now. What nights it is on?
Yeah.
Is it on Fox?
Monday nights, Fox, 9 p.m., 8 p. Central.
There it is. Bellamy, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Ricky. Thank you for having me. Thanks for promoting the show. We love it. I hope everybody else does too. And thanks for watching.
Bellamy Young, everybody.